Again, my kids are loud. They're back. They're singing Natalie Raines' song, I Have a Bible. But they're being really loud. Tips on being supportive to a friend who is discouraged. And this went hand in hand with the other video on how to deal with personal discouragement. But how you deal with them are actually different, because we can control our own thought process, but we cannot control somebody else's thought process. So how do you follow Galatians 6 and bear ye one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of God? And I remember a time where I was very discouraged, and it seemed like this problem was prolonged, and it seemed like there was no end in sight, and I had done every single thing I could think of to fix it, and there might be a solution, but that solution wasn't within my grasp. And when you start losing hope and you start feeling like maybe you're a bigger burden than you are a help in life, darkness can overcome you. And I remember reading somebody's book on how to deal with dark thoughts and things of that nature. And they were so encouraging that I just, like at 2 o'clock in the morning, I texted her and I said, I just want to thank you for putting these notes together in this Bible study together. Oh no, I'm going to cry. Ah! And then the next morning, it might have even been that night, she responded and was just so encouraging because she cared. She said, how are you doing? What's going on? Is there anything I can pray for you about? Reminded me that that I have value in the world and I make a difference. I might delete this. But she listened. She could sense that I was struggling, and she took the initiative to dig a little deeper and listened and asked questions. She didn't do it to give a solution. She was sincerely empathetic and concerned and cared and took that next step. And when she was empathizing, she didn't say things like, oh, well, you know, it could be worse, and at least blah, 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 or one-upping. Like, you know, sometimes when we're trying to empathize, it does sound like one-upping. Oh, yeah, I understand. I remember a time where and then you try to say something, or, oh, I remember so-and-so did this. And yes, that's good to a point, but be careful to not make light of their circumstances, because it could be worse. Meet them where they're at. It reminds me of on the movie Inside Out, and that character Sadness, who was needed to just sit there and say, oh yeah, you know what? I understand. That is very sad. That is very heavy. That is very dark. And you just sit there and you give them a hug and let them cry. And pray for them. And then be aware if they actually have physical needs, like sleep. Because if you're not getting sleep, you can easily get discouraged. Satan uses those physical weaknesses or nutritional problems, or not able to make dinner because things are just so heavy, and bear those burdens and bring them dinner, or take their kids out for a little bit if they need that. And then, yeah, be aware if they have needs and reach out. Oh, social needs, to include them, because sometimes that isolation, talk about that a coal, that when it can stay warm when it's around all the other coals, but if it gets outside of that situation, which often happens when we're going through trials, that life becomes so encumbered that we aren't able to reach out or fellowship, or we don't have the emotional capacity to reach out. We feel vulnerable, that we're going to get rejected, we're not worthy, we're not good enough, we're a bother, things aren't going to work out. Why even try? Just the dark places that our flesh can take us, or that the devil can take us. And so sometimes it's just nice to reach out and say, hey, I'm going to this place. Do you want to come with me? We can take the kids, it's not a big deal. Or if they don't have children, just reaching out and making sure they're not isolated and that they don't feel like they're a burden, to know that they have value and a place in this world outside of their circumstances.